Welcome, everyone. We're going to start over since we're recording. Thanks for spending your afternoon with me and the other participants here. The program sponsored and hosted by Oak. Uh-oh, we have some interference. There we go. Thanks, Rose. While we are waiting for a few people to join in, people were chatting and letting me know if they are new to this idea of plant-based diet style or if they are currently vegan. I personally first found out about a vegan, vegetarian, or raw diet or any of the above about 8 years ago. So it's something fairly new to me, but once I heard Dr. Kim Williams speak out of Rush, he's the head cardiologist at Rush in Chicago. I heard him speaking at the Lyle Veggie Fest in 2016, so just about 5 years ago. I was blown away by all the scientific data that he presented on why a whole food, plant-based vegan diet would be the best diet that you could ever imagine for reversal and prevention of heart disease, cancer, diabetes, and virtually most chronic diseases that we are all, destined, we think we are destined to get as we age. At the time, I had already raised 2 boys, and they're in their 20s and 30s, and I was always searching for the best diet. And unfortunately, never was introduced to the plant-based diet until Dr. Kim Williams at Veggie Fest. So glad I went to that Lyle event and hoping to attend as they continue this summer. Let me get to my next slide. Once I found out about the benefits, the health benefits of this diet, I was confused because no one I knew was eating this way. And I searched the internet, found a few people that, of course, are on YouTube that anyone could search. I found Forks Over Knives, decided to take the cooking course, and then learned a lot from that. So I'd highly recommend it. It's a 90-day course, and I learned a lot of the basics. And then I decided to take the plant-based nutrition certificate with T. Colin Campbell, learned a lot from that. And from then, I've been researching and trying different recipes, developing my own, and teaching other people how to do that. And I'm currently working on a book about the stories around our food. So since most people, I'm assuming, are new to this, but everyone realizes vitamins and phytonutrients and antioxidants all come from fruits and vegetables and the colorful produce that we could put on our plate. These are the 3 points that I'm going to cover today: the common myths and the calorie density principles of food when you eat whole food versus processed food, the delicious, easy, nutritious, satisfying, and economical concept that I put together, and the acronym is DENSE, and dense food, in other words. And then I'm also going to cover kitchen and real life tips and support for everyone. The first number 1 step is, when starting a new diet or plan, what is your goal? I want to encourage everyone to write it down and also include, what is your why? Are you not feeling all that great? Do you want to lose weight? Do you have diabetes, pre-diabetes? Do you have heart disease? Do you have maybe cancer in your genes and you're hoping to prevent that? All of these reasons are great reasons. And even if you're healthy, an athlete, active, and don't have any chronic diseases at this point, the sooner you start taking care of yourself with diet and lifestyle, the healthier you will be. The next, once you jot that down, I want you to think about what's in season, because these seasonal foods are the healthiest foods. And now what's in season are the root vegetables, the butternut squashes, the winter squashes, they're called, and they're delicious roasted and put in salads or put in soups and stews, which are my favorite ways to eat them. And then each time when you have a meal and you put your food on your plate, think about what additional colors can I add to this? Okay. And then spices and herbs, fresh herbs that I like to use are parsley, cilantro, basil, and I grow all of those in my garden. So I want to encourage everyone, start thinking about putting together an herb garden or some additional spices like rosemary, thyme, and oregano. You could get them all at a farmer's market, and they're pretty much easy to grow. And when you're cooking new foods that are plant-based without animal products, it's important to balance the flavors so your tongue and your brain remain interested in the food and they want to have more of those types of foods. So that's your homework, to write down your goal, know what it is and why, and think about what new foods can you add to your plate that are in season, what herbs and spices can I add, and balance the flavors so your tongue and your brain stay interested. If you haven't watched already, I encourage everyone on the call to watch the Forks Over Knives documentary. It's available streaming free, and they take 90 minutes of the experts and put it all together to explain the benefits of plants, how they prevent and lower cholesterol, lower blood pressure, and also lose weight. It can be found at forksoverknives.com. Going back, just mentioning the USDA website, 90% of Americans don't get enough vegetables, and legumes, which are the main source of protein, are put in the vegetable group instead of the protein group, which leaves the question, where do we get our protein when we are eating only plants? And this is purposely done to just keep us confused and just continuing to eat what we are currently eating, which is the standard American diet. It has been proven scientifically that a vegetarian, vegan, or plant-based diet can incorporate all the protein that we need directly from the plants. The power plate, this is a new power plate, and you can find this and more information at pcrm.org, and that is the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. Dr. Neil Barnard started an organization in Washington, D.C., and he proposed this to be our new power plate: fruits, vegetables, grains, and legumes. If you're not familiar with the term legumes, it refers to any type of plant that comes in a pod, as you see here. So that would include anything from peanuts, they're considered a legume, peas, green beans, any type of beans, lentils, and there's probably a few others. Oh, soy, and all the soy products are considered under the legume category. But this is the new power plate that he presented to the USDA government when they, every 5 years, they update the nutritional recommendations for the United States population. And unfortunately, they are moving in this direction, but not totally. They still do recommend animal products and dairy on the American food plate. But the Canadian guidelines are moving at a faster, in a faster direction as far as recommending a more whole food, plant-based way of lifestyle for the Canadian population. So this is an example of what your new plate would look like if you lived in Canada. And briefly, what is a plant-based diet? If you're totally new to it, here are the basic, descriptions of what a plant-based diet is. It's all whole plant foods that are minimally processed. So they don't come in usually packages, bags, boxes, unless there is one ingredient on the package. And they are also considered vegan, so no animal products. And some people also go a step further, and the abbreviation here is whole food, plant-based, no oil. And then that is for people, especially people that have chronic disease. You'd want to go to that step. A step further is considered whole food, plant-based, SOS free, which means that it's salt, oil, and sugar free. And SOSFA would be people that are wanting to be more gluten-free also, and alcohol-free. In comparison, we have what is a vegan diet. People think they're vegan and whole food, and sometimes there's confusion on what is the difference. So they have similarities and they have some differences. So a vegan diet also has no animal products, protein or poultry and fish, nothing that is or comes from a living being or has a mother or a face. It also does not include dairy, eggs, or honey. And the main difference between a vegan diet and a whole food plant-based diet is the vegan diet can also include processed foods, salt, oil, and sugar, and flour and alcohol. In comparison, the standard American diet is high in meat, poultry, fish, dairy, eggs as a protein source, and cheese. All of these products here, these animal products, are very high in saturated fat. Cheese alone is 70% on average saturated fat, and the meat, poultry, fish, dairy, eggs are even higher based on what the protein is. And they're also the high sodium levels of a standard American diet is sometimes in upwards numbers of 3, 4, 5,000 or 6,000 milligrams of sodium per day. They're high in processed oils. They're high in sugar. Sugar has over 60 hidden names on packages. They're also high with flours, caffeine, alcohol, not to mention all the chemicals, additives, and preservatives. How did we get here? Real quick. Industry, the food and drug profits, the government, FDA protects the agriculture businesses, the healthcare is increasing chronic diseases and prescribing drugs and procedures, but they are starting to see and notice that lifestyle changes can be very effective, working with prescriptions and procedures as based on each person's health needs. The culture started to change in the 50s when the grocery stores began offering many more of instead of fresh ingredients, they were starting to carry all of the packaged items. Now we have over 80,000 packaged items in the US that can be carried that are manufactured that could be put on the shelves. And we gradually shifted from eating those products and those which are some consider not to even be food because of all the chemicals in them. But we've shifted to that from what our grandparents and our great grandparents ate, to these easy, convenient foods, including all of the restaurant food and the fast food industry that's began in the 50s and 60s. All of that led us to the road to heart disease, which is the #1 killer in America for the last 100 years. Over 650,000 people die of heart disease each year just in America. And it's really not our fault because we've grown up with this process and this education. And we really need to take it upon ourselves to do our research and just figure out how to change our diet. The human instinct, really, the culture that we grew up with, the food industry, government subsidies, as well as healthcare, are the main 5 reasons of why we are here and why it's really not our fault. So this is a great photo of what we can, how we can simplify when we're looking at what is the best food that we could put on our plate. The processed foods, if we keep it to only 3 main food groups, we could say all the processed foods, and we could say those are not our food. When we see those, just feed your mind that this is not my food. When we look at the animal products, we could also say, this is not my food. And when we look at the whole plant foods, the colorful, whether they're fresh or frozen, we could say, this is my food because this is where my nourishment comes from. So we need to shift and think of putting those first on our plate and start minimizing the processed foods filled with the salt, oil, and sugar and chemicals, as well as the high protein, high saturated fats that are in the animal products. So what is whole food? Whole food is the entire, for instance, the apple. If you haven't had an apple lately, remember I grew up with the apple a day keeps the doctor away. And I love apples. Apples are one of the healthiest snacks and they last long. There's so many different varieties of apples. I like to eat them just alone. There's nutrition in every part of the apple, including if you can buy organic apples, even the skin and the white part of the apple. There's different colors of apples. I like to dip them into peanut butter and put a little, some walnuts on there. They really are, it's a great snack and you're getting protein with your apple, with your fruit, as well as fiber and over thousands of nutrients working together in just the simple apple. Think about the whole food. How many colorful, nutritionally dense foods can you add to your plate or your day or your snacks? What toxic foods can you eliminate so they don't cause disease? What to do each week? From here on out, since you spent time today, get further educated and become aware of all the data and the science that is available. I can't possibly cover everything in an hour, but I do have more in my program. And these are 4 documentaries that I would recommend to watch: Forks Over Knives, What the Health, Eating You Alive, and The Game Changers is a recent one. You could find them at the library or on YouTube or streaming on their websites along with plenty of recipes. And also Netflix has some of them. And I want to encourage everyone to add a new plant food each week. Shop the rainbow in the produce section. Try plant-based recipes similar to what you do now. So if you like eating Mexican food or Italian food or Thai food, Chinese food, whatever food you would like that you eat regularly, try to just Google, look at the Forks Over Knives website or some of the other websites that, like I said, What the Health, Eating You Alive, and the Game Changers has fabulous lists of recipes, and it's all free. And I'm sure the Oak Park Library has plenty of books that are also filled with recipes. But my recommendation is start with the meals you already make and make them healthier. Daily, you could have a raw meal for your salad or a smoothie with 3 or 4 colors or even more, or you could have a warm soup and stew. This time of year, I love soups and stews. And I could put up to 12 different vegetables in a stew or a soup in an instant pot or just a crock pot or just a big pot on the stove. And I have soup for a few days. Here's some of my favorite resources, and they are also on the one of the handouts that I gave you. PBNM is a Chicago area organization that we have a website, and under it stands for Plant-Based Nutrition Movement. I, along with other women in the area, men and women, physicians, as well as people that like to cook like I do and plant-based cooking, have videos on there. Dr. Kim Williams actually has some of his videos under the YouTube tab there. And under resources at that website, you can find all of the healthy videos, podcasts, things that are all oil-free, SOS-free, and all of the other ones listed underneath on this sheet can be found at PBNM. Some of the other references that I would suggest is The Real Truth About Health, which is a free 10-day conference. And on YouTube, they do post many of their classes and their discussions about health. Every week, they're posting different ones, and there's probably over 1,000 different interviews and classes with people discussing the benefits of a plant-based diet. Let me grab a drink here. The top food myth busters is the questions I get all the time are, can we get all the protein and calcium we need with just whole plants? And the answer is pretty much yes, we can get all the protein and calcium we need. This way of eating is healthy for families at any age, and it's never too old or never too young to start. The earlier the better, but I didn't start until my late 50s. My mom started till her in her mid 80s. She's 88 and healthy. So if you're thinking you have young children, that's great. This is the best time to get them started on a healthier diet. And if you have parents or if you yourself are elderly, it's never too late to start. You can attain and maintain a normal body BMI, which is a shortcut to body mass index, while eating enough food to be satisfied and nourished with this type of diet. It's not just salads and carrot sticks, and it can be quick and easy at home, and it can also reduce your food budget. Here's an example, speaking of budget: peanut butter, lentils, split peas, black beans, tofu, edamame, Ezekiel bread, chickpeas, and whole wheat pasta, for instance, are very low in price, and they can contain high levels of protein. This is I found this just just the last week, and the full article was posted actually just a few days ago on the meatlessmonday.com website. Dr. Furman has been on PBS, most recently just in the just on I think it was January 2nd that he again put his program on there, and he recommends the nutritarian food style. He has plenty of books out, and he has a YouTube channel that you can learn from him. He has cooking classes that shows him making salads and dressings that are oil free, and he recommends every day to simply eat these items: something green, some beans, onions, mushrooms, berries, and seeds. His acronym for that list is called the G bombs. So that's a great simple list if you're not sure what to do, how to get started. I find that was a simple list for me to help me get a nice variety of colorful foods that have nutrients in them. And here's Dr. Kim Williams. He was, again, the original person that when I heard the data that he presented, I thought to myself, I need to do this. I need to do this, but I had no idea how to do it, which led me to all my research. And he is famously quoted in most in books and things and by other people that there are types of cardiologists: the vegans and those who haven't read the data. And at the time, he was the president of the American College of Cardiology. I encourage you to search his name in YouTube, listen to some of his more recent information about chronic disease, because Rush Hospital here in Chicago is one of the forerunners of prevention, and also doing research and recommending lifestyle medicine. I think more than half of the cardiologists on the staff are recommending plant-based diet to their patients. And then if you don't know how to cook, or you don't know how to cook plant-based, I highly recommend Chef AJ. She is one of my favorite people on YouTube, and I've learned so much from her. I have all of her books. She's an author, and she has, for the last year and a half, she has interviewed one person, or some days two, on YouTube: a doctor, a chef, a dietitian, a home cook, someone in the plant-based world, mostly in the US, but sometimes around the world, guests. And she has over 800 interviews available on her YouTube channel. So if you're looking for something specific, maybe a specific recipe or a specific, say, autoimmune disease, just type her in under YouTube and whatever you're looking for, and you will find number of interviews and information. She also has available free on YouTube. If you search her name with Healthy Living Cooking Show, she has 13 episodes. And I would recommend starting there, watching her episodes, and seeing how easy it is to make a plant-based diet fitted into your lifestyle. She actually is the author of 2 books, Unprocessed and Ultimate Weight Loss Program. So if weight loss, even if whether you want to lose 50, 75, 100 pounds, or just 5 or 10 pounds, this is an interesting concept. And she explains it as these are all foods that are 400 calories. So on the green here, fruits and vegetables, if you ate just 400 calories of fruits and vegetables, greens, beans, peppers, zucchini, apples, bananas, oranges, it would fill your stomach because you're getting a lot of fiber. Just picture yourself eating 4 apples. You probably would be very full and too full to eat anything else. and then add to it the greens, grains, and potatoes, which are more considered starch or the carbohydrates. That 400 calories of potatoes, for instance, would fill you up about 3/4 of the way. Whereas if you took animal products, it would be less than half, would give you the 400 calories. Cheese would be just a small portion, would be 400 calories. And oils, even olive oil or coconut oil, that are and in some circles promoted as healthy, even though they may be healthy based on the Mediterranean diet, they're talking about 1 teaspoon or a half a teaspoon as a serving, not the 4 or 5 tablespoons that we think we're going to put in our daily, menus when we're cooking. And 1 tablespoon of oil equals, I think it's 120 calories for just 1 tablespoon. So by this visual, you could see if you added all three, the animal products, the cheese, and the oil in the American standard diet, you are adding up, it would take over 1,200 calories to fill us up versus the fruit, vegetables, and the beans and grains, which you would be filled up in only 400 or maybe 500 calories. And this is one of my favorite cardiologists. He's formerly at Rush, and he has since relocated to California, practicing cardiology and lifestyle medicine. But he was the founder of the plant-based nutrition movement, pbnm.org, here in Chicago. And it's a great free resource with lots of information. You can search his story. He lost over 100 pounds on a plant-based diet. And this is a slide taken from one of his presentations, again, showing the oil, the cheese, the meat, the potatoes, and the rice and beans, and the fruits and veggies filling up your stomach. And just by the way, there's no fiber in oil, cheese, and meat. There's a lot of saturated fat, and saturated fat is the fat that's considered the bad fat. That is what causes the plaques in the arteries that result in heart disease. Junk food can be as high as 2,000 calories per pound. For instance, look at Oreos, look at Snickers, over 2,000 calories per pound. And pepperoni, Cheetos, potato chips, hot dogs. This is a bulk of, unfortunately, a lot of the people in the US are eating mainly these types of foods. And maybe the only vegetable or fruit they would get is a few slices of apple, or maybe a tomato or a piece of lettuce on their burger. Here again, it shows cheese, nuts, and seeds are actually a high calorie food. So when you do, it is recommended to use nuts and seeds, but within reason. A portion or a portion of a serving of nuts and seeds are considered a quarter of a cup. So it's really hard sometimes to just eat a quarter cup of nuts and seeds, but that is what is recommended. You don't want to overeat on nuts and seeds. And oils and fats could be as high as 4,000 calories per pound. Another great source that I want everyone to look into is Dr. John Mcdougall, his wife, Mary. I love his free recipes, and they do have a free app that you could download on your phone. It just search Mcdougall recipes, and it'll come up. You could download it, and it's all searchable for certain ingredients. And he's also a well written author. He's recently put together a color type of color the rainbow for his grandkids of what is our food and what is not our food. So when you go to the grocery store, it starts there. The colors of the rainbow. I've had some people tell me, Janet, I go to the grocery store. I am so confused. I don't know what to do with these vegetables. Well, I would encourage you to stand there a little bit, look around, see what is interesting to you, and just pick up a bunch and put it in your cart. And then go home, search some of the websites, figure out what to do with it or eat it raw. Most vegetables, I think all fruits and vegetables are edible raw. And, try different things that you've never had before and try more of the things that are your favorite because they can be delicious even if you've never had them before. They're easy to eat. They're full of nutrition and they're sustainable and filling because they have the fiber included and intact with them. And they're economical if you buy what's in season. And also in the summer, frequent your farmers markets. The plants are very tasty. Let me go through this really quick. And there's over 100,000 edible plants. It's recommended to always include some greens every day in each meal. And that could be something like bok choy, broccoli, lime juice, lime zest, a few grapes, whatever is green, broccoli sprouts, even cauliflower, lettuce greens, spring greens, kale, spinach, the list goes on. But the more greens that you eat, the cravings will stop for your unhealthy foods that you may be eating now, and you will be starting to crave more healthier foods because our taste buds start to change within a week of eating healthier foods. And I suggest you flavor your foods with spices, herbs, onions, garlic, lemon, and lime is excellent too. It's easy when you want to only eat a whole food plant-based diet. If you start planning ahead, prepare in advance, have everything prepped on the weekends when you get home from the grocery store. And remember, it takes a 21-day habit to create a new habit, 21 days, and you just have to stick with it. I think I covered all of this already. The plants are nutritious. They're sustainable as far as we can save billions of animals by eating plant-based. So if you're interested in more of the factory farming practices here and around the world, I would encourage you to do some extra research on that. They also we can save the earth by not eating the animals because it's one of the highest causes of the natural resources being depleted. And you can save yourself from the chronic disease and a lifetime of meds. Economical, sweet potatoes, onions, beans, they're some of the healthiest foods that we could buy. And when we buy them, especially in the bulk bins, you can try smaller amounts and test different types of foods. And you can also, you're not buying a whole bag, just buy what you need from the bulk bins and then experiment with different things. Some of the experts recommend that we try to eat a total of 30 different plants in a week's time to give our microbiome in our gut, our bacteria, time to get used to different healthier nutrients. When we fill up with fiber, eat our greens, plan ahead, eat the nutrition of the rainbow, and hydrate regularly, you will see dramatic results. If you're currently on meds, I would definitely recommend before you change overnight to work with your healthcare professional, whether it's a dietitian or if you have a cardiologist, because they have seen in people that do change all at once, within 3 to 7 days, blood pressure can be lowered, cholesterol can be lowered, and insulin can be lowered. So you want to be sure that you're working with your healthcare professional when you change your diet completely from the standard American diet to the plant-based vegan whole food diet. Some of my favorite meals that I started with are the morning oats or overnight oats with fruit, nuts, and seeds. I make pancakes without egg or milk. I just use almond milk, and I use whole wheat flour, and I put blueberries on it. And another great breakfast that I like to have is called Tofu Scramble. And you can use seasonings like turmeric and black salt that makes it taste exactly like eggs. It looks like eggs, and you could stir it up with vegetables. So when you eat vegetables for breakfast, instead of sweets, it will curb your appetite for the rest of the day, and you will stop craving the sweets that you may be craving now. Some of my favorite dinner recipes are pasta with lots of vegetables. For instance, I include peppers and onions and mushrooms and zucchini and eggplant, and I saute them with a little bit of water, put my pasta sauce on, and I use a whole wheat pasta or a bean or lentil type pasta, and it's a healthy meal. I don't miss the meat. Tacos is a great favorite of mine, as well as chili, an Asian stir fry, rice and beans with vegetables. How simple can you be? And then baked potatoes, whether it's sweet potatoes or different types of potatoes, russets or reds or yellows. You can just batch cook a bunch of them that you could eat during the week. Just put them in the refrigerator. And then lunch, I usually have leftovers, just heat it up in the microwave or make a quick salad. And I always make dressings that have dressings or sauces that do not include oil. It is possible. And one of my easiest dressings I do is just take vinegar, any kind of vinegar. It could be apple cider vinegar, balsamic vinegar, or white vinegar. Put a little mustard or lemon juice in the container, and also a little sweetener like maple syrup or maybe a date in a blender. And you could put some nuts or seeds in it, blend it up, and it's a delicious dressing. Instead of oil, you could just add a broth, a vegetable broth, or just water. Great for the cold weather. We have just recently posted on Nutrition Studies 12 satisfying plant-based soups and stew recipes. And I already showed, I want to show it again, the Forks Over Knives magazine is a great, it just came out. It's available at the grocery stores. It has just beautiful colors. There's no advertising. It's just tons of recipes, usually a success story and tips of how to go plant-based. And this is available now at the grocery stores or Sam's Club at a discount. I also enjoy using regularly the Forks Over Knives recipe app. It's a phone app for only $4.99, and it has tons of recipes. And I like to search it. I use it because if I have, say, a butternut squash that I want to get a new recipe, I'll just type that in, butternut squash, and it'll pull up all of the recipes that include that. Or say I have a few extra apples that I want to make something with. I'll just put apples. It'll give me desserts and salads, or even you could put an apple in a dressing and blend that up in a blender. And you'll have instead of a date, and you could have a sweet type of fruity dressing for your salad. if you're looking to find a specific recipe, I want to encourage and invite everyone to just send me an email, and I'd be happy to give you sources that I found that work for me or a specific recipe. Send me a text or an email, or you can just search whole food plant-based no oil recipe on YouTube, websites, newsletters, and social media groups. Here's a book that's recent, that it's called The 30-Day Alzheimer's Solution. There's a scientifically tested recipes that help prevent and slow down our brain chronic disease from our American diet that is thought to enhance or almost the right foods and the colors will prevent our chronic diseases like Alzheimer's and dementia. But once it's started, they are saying that more tests have to be done in scientific studies. But the sooner you eat healthier foods, the better. Here's something that I like to take for a snack. It's basically spreads or with chickpeas seeds and various like celery and things that I would put in a chicken salad before I went plant-based. Instead of chicken or tuna, I just put a can of chickpeas, smash them up, put some lemon juice, carrots, chopped up, onion, maybe some pickles or relish, and some ground up seeds. For instance, sunflower seeds are great. Put some seasoning in, and it makes a great spread. If you want to turn it into a hummus, you can put a little more lemon juice in it. And tahini is an item that will make a delicious hummus with chickpeas. And you can really turn any type of bean into a spread. And let's see, excuse me a second. While you look at that, I have to plug in my computer. I just got a low battery message. While I'm doing this, sorry, if anyone wants to put in the chat some questions. Thank you. All right, here's some breakfast that I like to make. Today I had a sweet potato with some pineapples and apples on it, which is pictured here. You have oatmeal with berries and fruits and nuts. You have toast with, and these are all great snacks during the day also. And vegetables with some potatoes and lemon. Here's a few examples of colorful lunches, salads, tacos, leftovers turned into something else. Some dinners, pasta. Whether it's easy, a bowl of soup with lots of vegetables, or a fancier meal for a special occasion. You can make lasagna without cheese. It's delicious. You could use the tofu type of filling. You could even have healthy vegan desserts. Some are healthier than others. Some are whole food, plant-based without oil. Those are the ones I would recommend. And here's some healthier snacks. Popcorn air fried is a great snack. Roasted vegetables, vegetable sushi, salsas, pita, and hummus. Some of the most healthier cooking techniques are considered raw, food or food that's warmed under up to 115 degrees Fahrenheit, steaming over water, sauteing with water or vegetable broth, microwaving to reheat and save time, and roasting on a sheet pan. Special appliances aren't really necessary, but they do help when eating this way. If you have an Instant Pot, pressure cooker, which is a pressure cooker, crock pot, they're not necessary, but they do save time for the busy working person or people that don't want to be babysitting the stove. The air fryer is great. It makes crispy fries and crispy pizza crust without any oil. Blenders are helpful. Vitamix, Blendtec, or Ninja all have high-powered blenders to make smooth sauces and dressings. And one of my favorite dressings that I make, or favorite sauces I make, is with cauliflower, steamed cauliflower, sauteed onions, and garlic, and blend that in a Vitamix with the liquid being a vegetable broth. And you can put nutritional yeast in, or a little more garlic, a little oregano, and it turns into a creamy white sauce that could be put on pasta as instead of an Alfredo that would be full of saturated fat. This is healthy, and the base is onions and cauliflower. And the food processor, I pretty much use all of these regularly each week based on what recipe I'm making. The food processor saves time chopping, but if you have a sharp knife and a sharp knife as well as a cutting board, you're able to basically, do healthy food. Some of the things that were new to me are herbs and both fresh and dried spice blends. When you are buying spice blends, I would highly recommend to read the ingredients and look for blends that do not have salt on them, because our salt intake per day should be limited to 1,200 milligrams a day or less. And when we add salt, 1 teaspoon of salt could be as much, I think it's over 2,200. So that is double the amount that is recommended, just 1 teaspoon. So salt is hidden in many things, including spice blends. So always look at the back of the ingredients on the spices, and look for organic spices, because they can be very heavily sprayed when they're growing and being processed. Condiments, aminos, and coconut aminos are a substitute for salt, and you could buy low sodium coconut aminos from different brands at the grocery store. Tamari also is a gluten-free soy sauce, and mustards also have hidden salt, so you'd want to look for low sodium brands of mustards. With your lemons and limes and vinegars, they add the tart flavor to your foods. And then the healthiest sugars for sweetener instead of sugar, it would be considered dates, date sugar, maple syrup, that is 100% maple syrup, no corn syrup, and coconut. There's also a coconut sugar that is healthier because it's made from coconut nectar. And believe me when I say your taste buds will change. It takes about a week to even, as short as a week, to start your taste buds changing. And because they're cells, just like every cell in our body, they will start to change. I found after about 3 months of eating this way, my taste buds just sort of woke up, and I started enjoying foods better, and I could taste saltier things where I was using less salt. Sweet things were too sweet for me, as well as spicy things And it's amazing the way your brain and your tongue work together to give you the foods and start you craving the right foods instead of the wrong foods. But we have to make the first step to stop the oil, stop the processed foods and the heavily salted and heavily sugared foods and processed in our diet. Reading labels are so important, and I could do a whole program on reading labels, but if you're interested in learning that, I'd be happy to send a video out or post something. I am doing a monthly newsletter where I do send out to my followers that are interested different videos and things that you can learn more in-depth information of what to look at. But the key things to look at are the portion size on the label, the sodium and the sugar count, and the ingredient list to keep it simple and quick. And I have a few other slides here, but just so you know, you can eat everything that you're eating right now, including bakery and healthier desserts and sauces, but just make them healthier. For anyone who would like more information, in the handout, you have my information, my contact information. Some of the things, since this is being taped, I'm going to quickly go through the next 3 minutes, some of the items that I cover in my next few newsletters. Food tips to stop food waste, how to store your produce store it correctly so it doesn't go bad. Tips when shopping and grocery shopping that I included in the presentation, but additional ones. Tips when you're at home. Tips when you're out socializing. Tips when traveling. Tips when working or going to school. And how our memory is centered around food and our customs. So I'd like to end with, again, the challenge. Watch some documentaries, add a new plant food this week, shop the rainbow, try a new recipe that's plant-based without oil, try a salad with a few more, 3 or 4 colors on it, or a smoothie, and decide if your food is your medicine and what will you change this year. Imagine having the key to your health and longevity right in your hands, easily accessible, and as simple to implement as raising a fork. You do have the power, and you could eat your way to health. The challenge is, if you make small changes, you will have small improvements, which are great, gradual improvements going in the right direction. And big changes, you will see big improvements quickly. I do have a Facebook group too, where I post what I'm making each week, and other people are posting recipes and things. So that is a Vegan Home Cook group on Facebook. And now we're going to open it to questions. If we could have Rose flip me, or I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And feel free to go ahead and in the chat, I think I'm still here. Oh, we have 26 in the chat. Let me see if there's questions here in the chat. Now that we're done, I want to conclude the presentation and look at some of the questions, and feel free to continue to go ahead and type some things in. Thank you. Let's see. The slideshow is not on my handout. Rose, oh, thanks, Rose. Rose included some of the links for everyone. What seeds do I use? I use a lot of seeds. I use chia seeds, flax seeds, hemp seeds, sunflower seeds. Pumpkin seeds. Pumpkin seeds are actually very tasty and they're high in protein. Most seeds are very high in protein and antioxidants. Any suggestions for reducing sugar cravings? Yes, I love chocolate. Dark chocolate is healthy if it's a higher content of chocolate. So I like to go for chocolate that is 66, 70% dark. And I used to eat it more often, but now my cravings have lessened. But sugar cravings, one of my favorite things to snack on for us instead of a candy bar or something sweet is a date. Dates are fabulous. They are filled with minerals and antioxidants, fiber. They are very sweet. They are caramely. And I personally never even bought dates before. They're found in the produce section of the grocery store. And they have a pit in them, almost like an olive. Take the pit out. And sometimes I would just eat them by themselves. You could fill them with a little bit of nut butter. For instance, peanut butter, almond butter. You could put a little piece of dark chocolate in there. And I'll tell you, I used to eat turtles were my favorite candy, or the Fannie Mae version of the turtle. But when you put a date in with fill it with those ingredients, it's a great little treat. And you could even put them together, put them in the freezer in a container, and then just take one when you need it. Dark chocolate, excellent. It's fine. I use also in baking, I use raw cacao in my smoothies to make milkshakes that are more like smoothies, but they take the place of a milkshake. And I use a non-dairy milk with some dates and, or if I'm making a chocolate one. My favorite vegan cheese, and is there a good substitute for yogurt? Yes, there are excellent substitutes for cheese and yogurt. Some are healthier than others. Just because it's vegan doesn't mean it's healthy. But the yogurt that I like is coconut based or almond based. I usually buy plain and then I add my own fruit because, again, you have to watch the sugar content on the yogurts. The cheeses, my favorites, Mayoko is a brand that can be found at, I know it's Whole Foods, and I'm not sure, probably Pete's Market in your area too, has delicious cheeses. Treeline is a brand that Whole Foods carries. Let's see, some of the other cheeses. There's a Parmesan cheese that I love that's called Violife. So there are plenty out there. I do use nutritional yeast. If you haven't heard of that, it's a powdery type of cheese substitute that whole food and vegans like to put in sauces. It almost looks like Parmesan cheese, but it has doesn't have the sodium or the dairy that is in Parmesan cheese. I like to blend the nutritional yeast with some seeds or nuts in my processor to make it, or even oatmeal and oats. You could blend it together and it could be a nice topping. Have I cooked with tempeh and any easy recipes? Yes, tempeh is also in the refrigerator section. It comes in a block. You usually slice it, and I usually just put it in a pan and cook it lightly And it's a great type of sandwich. You can make a sandwich with it. In the pan, I'll usually put some tamari, which is like a soy sauce, maybe some mustard, maybe some barbecue sauce. And it could be a great substitute if you put the right seasonings together to from like bacon or that type of flavor. You could also put tempeh, just crumble it and use it as a type of, instead of ground meat or ground turkey, in any soup, stew, or chili. Let's see, do you roast the sheet pan without oil? Yes, I do roast on the sheet pan without oil. And I basically put my, if I do a tray of potatoes, put it all in, a variety of potatoes, put it in about 400 for at least an hour, maybe an hour and 10 minutes based on the size of the potato, and no need for oil with that. If I'm making a larger like squash, I cut it in half, or eggplant. I love just cutting it half, putting the cut side down and the skin is up. So the skin keeps all the moisture in. And I put it down on either parchment paper or what's called a silicone mat that you could wash. And those type of whole types of vegetables I roast for at about 375, 350 based on your oven. And you could do them until they're done and soft, and those are delicious. Let's see, if you are cutting up your vegetables and you feel you're putting spices on them, a good way to moisten them would just be water, vegetable broth, spray them with some vegetable broth, or the aquafaba, which is bean water. That's the liquid that comes when you have chickpeas. So that is something that some people like to put on their vegetables when they're roasting to eliminate the oils. Where's my contact information? I did put it on the side, and it's on the handouts also. Uh, Thanks, Marlene, for reminding you. I didn't mention it today, but something that when you are freezing, batch cooking and putting anything in the freezer, a good tip is to write down what you put in the refrigerator so it doesn't get buried, because you should probably, your goal should be to use up things in your freezer. I think it's about 3 to 6 months. Things will last longer, but they kind of lose their texture. Also, you can write down what's your leftovers are in your refrigerator and repurpose them. For instance, I'll make a chili one day, I'll eat it as a chili. The next day, I'll put it over a baked potato, maybe a russet. The next day for lunch, maybe I'll put it over a sweet potato. Maybe I'll add a little more, maybe some sweet corn the next day into the chili, or maybe a cut up sweet potato, or even pumpkin puree that comes in a jar. So there's different varieties. So I know a lot of people they get tired of eating the same thing every day in a row. If you don't want to freeze it, you can also make different varieties out of it. The Oak Park offers a compost program, which is a great way to recycle your vegetables and your fruits. Absolutely. And if you have a garden, a great tip is to collect your fruits and vegetable scraps and have a hole in your garden and just throw it in there, and put some leaves or grass on it. You could even do it in the winter. What supplements do I recommend for people over 60? Everyone is different with supplements. You do get most of your supplements from the whole foods, but everyone on a strictly vegan diet it is recommended that you take a B12, and I like mine in a spray, and you only need small amounts of it. Again, based on how your blood is tested now, I would highly recommend to get tested for your levels first before you start overdosing or thinking that you need lots of supplements. Your body will actually use a lot of the foods better than the vitamins from food, better than supplements. Calcium, magnesium, if you're low and on a prescription, I would, definitely continue with it. But a lot of that is individual based on what condition you're in now and, what really you need. Vitamin D, I know, is a big one that everyone in this area, vitamin D3 specifically, it's recommended to keep your vitamin D levels up at the 50 or 60 mark to be healthy with your immune system. Okay, Rose is saying there was a group. So Iris is saying there was a plant-based group that met at the library with a local doctor. It could have been part of the PBNM group, because there is a physician in the Oak Park area that is a member of our group and practices, plant-based nutrition. One question came in: what are the healthier cheeses? Non-dairy cheeses that are oil-free or very low in sodium would be your healthiest choices. Why does eating nuts cause painful inflammation in my toes? Is this an allergy? I'm not sure about that one. You could be tested for sensitivities, food sensitivities, but a lot of the highly saturated fats do cause inflammation. Animal products and protein, dairy also is the main cause of inflammation. So depending on what else you're eating with the nuts, but if you've isolated this reaction to nuts, I would say remove them from your diet and see how you feel. You don't have to have nuts and seeds in your diet if you have irritation from them or some adverse reactions. What's the story on Impossible Burger and Beyond Beef? Yes. They're great transitions. They taste like regular burgers. I love them. I used to eat them when I was going to a barbecue on a holiday and everyone else was eating meat. In fact, the first time I bought one was a Labor Day at my brother's. He was grilling hot dogs and sausage and hamburgers, and I had brought 2 or 3 of the Beyond Beef burgers, Impossible Burger. I can't, one of the two, whatever was available at the time. This was about 4 years ago. And he's like, "Oh, I thought you don't eat meat." I said, "I don't. This is a plant." He's like, "What's in it? It looks like meat." And as he was grilling, he was spraying off all the flames coming up from all the oil dripping into the, into his grill, under the entire grill, except for the place that had the meat that I had, or the burgers. It wasn't meat, the plant-based burger. And he's like, "Oh, there's like no oil in these coming down on my grill." So that was my first indication that what I was eating was healthier than what everyone else was eating. But as we tasted them, they were delicious. So if you are craving meat and looking for a substitute, they are a great temporary recommendation. I also do enjoy the Beyond Beef hot Italian sausage. And I use it very sparingly. In the beginning I did, but now that I've been eating this way for more than 5 years, I really don't crave that flavor anymore. I crave more of the whole vegetables. So those are both good transitional foods, and I would not recommend them as a regular diet, or I feel they're not as healthy as a plant-based burger that you may want to make yourself. Is ricotta okay? Ricotta cheese is a dairy product. It's made from cow's milk. So it's not low, even if it says low fat, it still has saturated fat. A great substitute for ricotta that I make either in stuffed shells or lasagna is using tofu. And you could Google tofu ricotta cheese, and you will find several recipes. What I like to do is I take the tofu, I buy it in the refrigerator section, the firm or the extra firm, and I press all the liquid out. And then once it's all pressed and in my like a sieve type of a narrow sieve, put something heavy on it and press the liquid out. And then I put it in my food processor, and I usually include maybe a half a cup of walnuts and process those. Believe it or not, it gives it a great texture. I put some lemon juice in it, some garlic, some fresh parsley and basil, and blend it up until it looks like a ricotta. And then I mix that with bok choy, onions, and frozen spinach that is thawed. And that is my filling for my lasagna. And I made it for the holidays, and it was delicious. Everyone raved about it. They just loved it and they couldn't believe it. It wasn't real ricotta. Kale, spinach, dark green leafy vegetables. Yes, those are great sources of calcium. Greens should be a regular daily, indication included on your regular diet. One unusual type of food that you may or may not be regularly buying is bok choy. It's a great, it kind of looks like a combination celery and a spinach plant. And they have it in baby bok choy or a bigger one. Either way, it's can be eaten raw like celery. It can be cut up in a salad, eaten raw, or it could be sauteed in a stir fry. The whole plant, other than the little root part, is great, and it has a lot of nutrients. It's considered a cruciferous vegetable. So that, along with broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, radishes, those are all good to have in your daily routine on a salad or in a stir fry or a soup. I think I covered all the answers here. Does anyone, if I haven't covered and I missed it, if you could put it in the chat here again. My email real quick is janetspecialevents@gmail.com. What is the best plant-based pizza recipe? Oh, I love pizza. And I like to make pizza with I make it kind of quick and easy. I've made some crust from scratch, but I usually like to buy the Whole Foods or the Trader Joe's already made crust. It comes in the refrigerator section in a bag, so that it does have a little bit of oil in it, but it's minimal. So you can make it yourself. And there are some good crust recipes on pbnm.org. And actually one of our chefs that are, her name is Sherry. I think she has a demo of how she makes her pizza. But the way I do it, real quick and easy, I buy one that's already made that has a tiny bit of oil in it. And I don't even roll it out. I press it out on my cutting board, put it on my pan, my round pan. I'll cook it in the oven a little bit. I have an air fryer, so I'll cook it about 10 minutes until it starts to cook. And while it's doing that, I'll cut up my vegetables. I like to put onion, olives, mushrooms, green peppers or red peppers. Sometimes I'll put zucchini or artichokes, depending on what mood I'm in. And I'll either saute them or keep some of them raw. And then I'll put the sauce. I usually buy an oil-free sauce that I find either at Trader Joe's or Whole Foods. Just look for one that has low sodium or no sodium and a fat-free, no oil one, or you can make your own with a paste. I'm sure there's a few different recipes on the forks over knives of the sauce and the crust and the toppings. And you can also use cauliflower crust that you can buy frozen, but you need to look at the ingredients when you buy something already prepped and made, because again, high sodium, preservatives. If it's a clean list, I would recommend it. Let's see, what other foods besides beans are good for protein for lunch? Protein, I would say don't be so concerned with protein at lunch. Tempeh, tofu, if you do need to eat protein, but there's protein in all fruits and vegetables, not so much fruits, but mostly vegetables. And if when you eat a variety of foods, you will get the protein that you need. Soy products are, high in protein. But that is a good question. I'm going to do a little more research on that for you. If you want to email me that question, I'd be happy to do a little more research on it. Oh, another question regarding living with, working around increased concerns about arsenic levels in dried spices and white rice. Yes, I've heard of that. Arsenic levels in rice. I always rinse my rice when I'm using it. It is some experts are recommending that you keep rice to a minimum or even avoid it. I use it about once a week. It's not a daily thing for me. I like to have potatoes. As far as arsenic levels in the dried spices, I would have to do a little more research on that, but I like to buy brands that do say they're organic. And but that is a good question that you're raising. Quinoa is a great source of protein and that's a grain. It's actually considered a seed, but it's put in the grain category. So quinoa in a salad with tomatoes and lemon juice and cucumber, that makes a great salad or a topping. Here's a question. Do you put dairy-free cheese on your pizza, and which one? Sometimes I make my pizza without cheese. Sometimes I do put a dairy-free cheese on it. Some of the brands that I like are usually at Whole Foods. I look at what's new. They're always coming out with new ones, and I try different ones. So do I have a favorite? Forager, I think, is the last one that I tried. I like BioLife, Parmesan shreds. So, and I think there is Follow Your Heart has some good shreds. I'm not sure they're at Whole Foods. They're probably at Jewel or Pete's Market or other grocery stores. I haven't seen Follow Your Heart at Whole Foods, which I'm not sure why, because that's a California company. I think I answered the questions. So we are about almost at 2:30. So anybody that's still left here, if you have sugar beet has vegan cheese. Okay, sugar beet. That is, I know that's a great store in Oak Park, and they have a lot of vegan options. So is Rose there? Did you want to come back on? And the Chio brand is good that I've had it. Everybody has different taste buds. And as I said, if you're used to using cheese a lot, because we are addicted to it, Dr. Neil Barnard actually a few years ago came out with a book, and the library may have it, but I purchased it. It's called The Cheese Trap. and he talks about what the ingredients are in dairy cheese and how we are pretty much addicted to it because it's on every meal. And he gives all the scientific data and the health benefits, and the health chronic diseases that are caused by regular cheese because of the high saturated fat and sodium and the protein in it. The case So you'd want to do a little more research on the vegan cheeses. Look at the ingredients, look at the oil and the sodium levels. They are coming out with, some companies do have oil-free and low sodium brands that are available. And there's recipes that you can make your own cheese from either yogurt or cashews and other helpful ingredients. All right. Well, I'm glad. Thank you for everyone that was on the program. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you come back and review it, share it with your friends. Contact me for any questions or resources. Register for my website by just sending me an email with your information. I'll add it to my list, and look forward to having everyone be healthier.
Thanks so much, Janet. That was wonderful. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And for everyone
one last question. Someone's asking, I love the Food Revolution Network. I've taken some of their courses and summits. They are mostly all plant-based, oil-free, salt, oil, sugar-free. And they have a food course that I have taken, and I learned a lot from it. So highly recommend it. Okay, sorry to interrupt. Wanted to get that last question in.
No, all good. Again, thank you so much. And for everyone that's still here, I will be emailing a follow-up survey and the handouts one more time, just in case you missed that original email.
Great. Thank you, Rose.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me. Good luck, everyone.